Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. Look at them, we've got two of them facing up against each other here. Slight differences though, Eloy's running the leftovers item, whereas Longyu has the assault vest. In terms of their movesets, Snarl coming out from Longyu's, but Eloy being able to take advantage of the fact that his Archaldon can protect and running that move, because assault vest prevents any use of status moves. So don't often see an Archaldon with protect, because assault vest is overwhelmingly the most popular item. This is something that Longyu has to be careful not to be taken off guard by.
And especially when you have that Perish Song option, you really do want to be able to protect. You want to whittle away the turns.
Exactly.
Usually you protect on the third turn, then you do something, maybe you switch around, maybe you just keep the trap going with the Gothitelle, maybe you switch something in to get knocked out, and then the Gothitelle comes back in and can protect itself again, and then the next turn you protect yourself, you reset the Perish Song for your side of the field but not for theirs, and you just make sure that they can't knock your Pokemon out and their Pokemon get knocked out as well. So definitely a sensible adaptation to the kind of team composition that Eloy's running. But if that doesn't work, well, you've got choice specs on the Politoed.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's just so much more to deconstruct about these players' teams, far more than we could ever cover in team preview. But we've got to call out the skill swap on the Gothitelle as well. It would be so cool to see that coming out. But for now, it's going to be Basculegion, it's going to be Archaldon facing down another bridge across the field in the Archaldon, and there is that Incineroar.
Incineroar getting the Intimidate. It's going to be making sure that Basculegion is kept a little bit in check. But if there's anything that I've learned over Regulation Set H, Basculegion with adaptability is definitely not something to be underestimated one bit. Now, both of the Pokemon on Longyu's side of the field aren't able to protect themselves whatsoever with the Assault Vest and the Choice Scarf. And that gives Eloy a little bit of room to maneuver whether or not he wants to go for a fake out into the Archaldon on Longyu's side of the field, and then maybe try to launch an Electro Shot into the Basculegion slot and just start putting on the pressure, start taking those key knockouts so that Perish Song is an option in the end game. That is if, of course, he's brought the Politoed.
Flip turn coming out into the Incineroar brings down to about half HP. May I just point out, Ben, that the Archaldon being run by Eloy is Terra Bug. That's an interesting thing that we might see coming out later on in the game as Longyu gets the opportunity to pivot round, decide which Pokemon to bring in from the back in place of that Basculegion. Deciding time for Longyu as it's going to be hitting the field, the Amoonguss, so hopefully able to sponge up something coming out from the Archaldon. Dragon Pulse doubling up into this Incineroar, and Dragon Balls returning right into Longyu's own Archaldon. A little bit of chip damage and a stamina boost to boot. Don't always see Dragon Pulse and Archaldon, more likely the Draco Meteor for heavier offense, but Dragon Pulse you can use over and over again with no recall, whereas Draco Meteor you drop your special attack.
Well, I think that Amoonguss is going to be happy that it's not a Draco Meteor that's threatening it right now. And I think, you know, with that damage trade, Eloy's got a good side of it, got some damage onto the field, but Longyu's really got the better end of it here, doing lots of damage to that Incineroar. There's no way for that Incineroar to recover any HP, and you definitely do want to take these knockouts if you're Longyu. You want to be making sure that all of those fast defensive Pokemon that Eloy has available to him are kept a little bit more in check, and to activate your own Basculegion and make sure that it can come out in the end game and be most threatening.
Citrus Berry knocked off from the Amoonguss, so it's not going to have any big recovery option, but it will get a little bit of recovery at the end of each turn from this grassy terrain that the Rillaboom has kindly set up for it on the field. Body press with that +1 to the defense after the Dragon Pulse coming out from Eloy's own Archaldon into the Rillaboom here, and Pull and Puff able to heal up this Archaldon right back to full health. It's really interesting as well, the leftover set that Eloy's running on his own Archaldon, because it is still the stamina ability. Assault Vest gives you more longevity, you're able to take more hits and then boost up that body press even further. So doesn't quite work out so well synergistically, but the leftovers and the passive recovery bolstered by the grassy terrain set up by the Rillaboom could well pay dividends.
It certainly could, and you know, this is usually the name of the game for these Archaldon mirrors. How do you dispatch your opposing Archaldon without giving the opposing Archaldon enough stamina boost to activate the body press, make sure that's doing as much damage as possible? It really is one of those games where you have to be very careful of your targeting, but I think Longyu's going to be very happy that there's not too much offensive pressure left on this Amoonguss, and it's just able to keep Archaldon on Longyu's side of the field nice and healthy. healthy.
Well, time to get grassy for this Archaladon. Time for it to take a walk in the meadow of its very own. Going for the Terra Grass over on Longyu side of the field. Fake out connected down into the Amoonguss. No spores from you today, sir. No thank you, as Body Press coming out once more into the Rillaboom. Dragon Pulse into the Amoonguss. Eloy deciding that it's time to remove this Amoonguss from the field before it can get up to too many spory, rage, powdery antics. And of course, if Longyu were to hit into Eloy's own Archaladon with Dragon Pulse, it would do far more than Eloy's would to it, because it's not carrying the Assault Vest, not bolstering its own special defenses.
I like how both of these players are approaching this matchup. They're targeting down the glue of each other's teams and trying to sort of pick apart the pieces so that they can, you know, launch more powerfully into the real threats, which are the Basculegion in the back for Longyu, the Archaladon, and of course the Archaladon on Eloy's side of the field as well. So yeah, I really like how they're approaching it, but I think Longyu's a little bit further ahead because of all of that damage on the Incineroar. It's going to be very difficult for Eloy to be able to pivot those Pokemon in, and if the Amoonguss now goes for a switch out, it's going to recover a lot of that HP that it's already lost.
Regenerator coming in clutch here, able to recover Amoonguss when it switches out. But here comes King Gambit joining the field right now. Huge switch in here as Body Press brings the Rillaboom down really, really low. Wood Hammer connects out to the King Gambit, takes it very well, as the Amoonguss would have done as well. Very threatened by a Body Press that could come out from Eloy's own Archaladon here, but no, it is the Dragon Pulse. Not expecting the King Gambit switch in. That is now resisted by the King Gambit with neutral damage into the Amoonguss.
And the King Gambit coming in, showing how good the Steel type is defensively. But with the Archaladon already gone for its Terra Grass on Longyu's side, that King Gambit is vulnerable to getting hit with a Body Press. But there's an Amoonguss in the back, Charlie. I mean, it can just switch in. These Pokemon can rotate, and of course, Amoonguss has recovered a bunch of HP already. So I think Eloy's got to find a way to really leverage this Archaladon coming into the mid-game a little bit more to try and get that damage on the field. Eloy's already activated Stamina once on Longyu's Archaladon, which is causing more problems than I think it might have been worth to target down into that slot.
Of course, what King Gambit's also doing is preventing Eloy from switching safely into the Incineroar. Ooh, looked like he was very nearly out of time there as Eloy was locking in the move. As it is, King Gambit just going for the Protect. Dragon Pulse now connecting into the Rillaboom. That's going to be easily enough to secure the knockout on the Drumming Gorilla. And now the Archaladon left on the field for Eloy. Attempted the Body Press into the King Gambit, but perhaps a little bit predictable over on Longyu's side, given the King Gambit is so very vulnerable to fighting type moves. Takes double super effective damage, being a part Dark type and a part Steel type. And there it is. So what I was saying before, the Incineroar would drop the attack stats for everything on the field with Intimidate, but then you get a double boost to your attack with the King Gambit, and that can snowball out of hand very quickly, especially when you have a Ghost type in the back.
It's a hard choice that Eloy's got to make here. Do you bring in the Basculegion to try to bait out a Sucker Punch from the King Gambit? Maybe you go for the Terra option with your Basculegion as well to try and not be knocked out, just turn it into a pure Water type. But then if you switch in the Incineroar and the King Gambit just goes for a Kowtow Cleave, maybe the Body Press isn't quite enough. Well, it probably will be enough to pick up the knockout, but maybe Eloy goes for the Dragon Pulse onto the Archaladon. Then you're really in some problems here. You can't really switch in and out for the situation there. So I think Longyu has positioned themselves very, very well in this battle.
Yeah, really playing around masterfully here. And Eloy, you know, Electroshock can be huge coming out from the Archaladon, boosting up his attacks, but of course you haven't ruled the raid, neither trainer has. Pelipper and Politoed left on the bench, and so can't go for that really powerful move either. Not that, you know, it'd be good into the King Gambit, but then you're going to be wanting to go for the Body Press either way, but potentially heading into game 2 could be looking for a Perish Song strategy. But that's going to be Dragon Pulse coming out into the Basculegion, staying in with the Basculegion. Really bold there. Critical hit, last respects, into the Amoonguss, with just the one Pokemon felled over on Eloy's side of the field. I wouldn't be surprised if that critical hit did matter, actually, to pick up the knockout onto the Amoonguss. There's the Dragon Pulse into the Archaldon. A little bit of chip damage there. And of course, the Amoonguss is now down, so it can't go for another Pollen Puff to heal up this bridge.
No, but this Archaldon is looking pretty scary right now. When you've got the mirror match between Archaldons and one has Assault Vest and one does not, the one that doesn't definitely has the overall advantage here. But again, a decision for Longyu to be making here. And you've got the option, bring in the Scarf Basculegion. One of your Pokemon has been knocked out now, so you have the Last Respect sort of halfway set up, so to speak. It's certainly getting going. And if you go for the Last Respect into the Basculegion slot, it's probably going to knock it out pretty easily. There's no rain coming out from either player, so Electro Shot isn't even a risk in this situation because it's going to take 2 turns to get set up, and you can just switch out the Basculegion afterwards, maybe have the King Gambit go down for Longyu. That increases the damage that the Last Respects is going to do on that Adaptability Basculegion, and you can kind of try to mop up the endgame.
Yeah, and it's important to note that the Basculegion for Eloy holding the Life Orb, whereas Longyu's is the Choice Scarf. So Eloy can switch up the moves he locked into right now with that Basculegion, whereas Longyu does not have that luxury. He'd have to switch out the King Gambit. And as Eloy once again brings the timer right down to the wire, it's time for Eli's own Archaldon to go for its Terror. And that's right, trainers, this Archaldon is about to get some antennae. It's Terra Bug. Not a Terra type that we see that frequently at all, but of course what this does is resist ground type moves where once they were super effective. Just to name one, really interesting team building decision here. Eloy's Basculegion being able to go for a Protect, not holding that Choice Scarf. Last Respect coming out from Longyu's own, and so now we know that Longyu's Basculegion is locked into Last Respect, unless we're to switch out. Another thing that Terra Bug does is resist the Body Press, of course, and give a nice stamina boost to this Archaldon. Terra Bug may well just be the thing that saves the day for Eloy, but only time will tell. Going for the Electro Shot outside of the rain as well, knowing that the Basculegion, although it cannot protect and just block the attack, it would have to switch into the King Gambit, and then the King Gambit takes a lot of damage as well, especially after that boost to the special attack. So Eloy really, this is a really fantastic play from Eloy, getting a stamina boost, not taking much damage, as well as a special attack boost.
And also being able to set up the stamina as well, taking that Dragon Pulse from Longyu's Archaldon, kind of gets it, also the Body Press from Longyu's Archaldon, it kind of gets it set up and going, and it sort of equalizes the playing field, neutralizes the advantage that Longyu's Assault Vest is affording his own Archaldon. They're going to be trading Dragon Pulses, but it's not just Dragon Pulses that are going to be traded. This Electro Shot is going to do a lot of damage, potentially into this King Gambit.
Yeah, and the King Gambit, of course, has taken a little bit of health away as well, so it could be enough. Only time will tell. Basculegion hanging on in the face of the Dragon Pulse. That's Last Respect. Just a little bit of chip into Longyu's Archaldon here. And another stamina boost to boot. Life Orb, of course, at the expense of some HP at the end of each turn. Going to be taking down that Basculegion. So, here's the Electro Shot into the King Gambit. Is it going to be enough to secure the knockout? Yes, it is. That's King Gambit down. It's going to have to be the Basculegion coming back out. Basculegion's going to have to choose a move, and it's going to be locked into that for the remainder of the game.
But I think that's a good thing for Longyu overall here. One more Pokemon has been knocked out. Incineroar's on such low health. I mean, yeah, okay, the Incineroar's going to intimidate the Basculegion. That's going to stop it from being quite as effective. But Basculegion's, yeah, it can take a couple of hits. Maybe not so well now that the Archaldon on Eloy's side of the field has got its special attack boosted, but it's at least going to be able to take one, and it takes 2 turns for an Electro Shot to get set up. I do think this is the right call for Eloy, though. Get the Archaldon set up as much as you can, overcome the Assault Vest, get the special attack boost, and when you're in the 1v1 Archaldon versus Archaldon, you want to be the one with more boosts than less.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the best option for Longyu to be able to deal damage to this Archaldon really is Dragon Pulse. You can go for Electro Shots of your own. That's going to take 2 turns to work. As it is, Fake Out going to be connecting moving down, so it won't be moving here, getting another stamina boost, but that is okay when you have some special attacks on your own Archaladon. That's last respects, but just look, with the stamina boosts into that Archaladon, how little damage that does. Stamina boosting the defense after each hit it receives. Not necessarily even physical attacks can be special as well, boosting the stamina. And this is going to be another Electro Shot, another boost to the special attack here, realizing that in order to deal significant damage to Longyu's Archaladon, you're going to need those special attack boosts.
And you can see the effect of the leftovers really helping out here. Turn after turn after turn after turn. They're really doing a lot of work. And of course, in the mirror match, Terra Bug is also doing a lot of work because you can attack into the opposing Archaladon. You can raise its defenses, its stamina boost, give it its stamina boost because you resist that body press. It makes such a big difference here.
So last respect's going to be easily outspeeding the Incineroar, of course, with the Choice Scarf. Incineroar going down, but if there's one Pokemon that can turn things around for Eloy, if there's one Pokemon you want remaining to you, it's definitely the Archaladon. Longyu is getting the idea and now getting the idea from Eloy and now going for an Electro Shot of their own, but is it too little too late? Electro Shot will be connecting down into the Basculegion here, and that's going to be easily enough for the one-hit knockout. Interesting to get rid of that Basculegion because it feels like the Archaladon for Longyu is maybe slightly more of the threat to Eloy's Archaladon right now, but that's it. It's just going to be these bridges facing off. It's certainly not going to be an abridged battle.
Not an abridged. Yeah, that's a good one, Charlie. That's
thank you.
That's yeah. We'll be here all weekend, trainers, as Electro Shock comes out, of course, from Longyu's Archaladon. That's doing a lot of damage. You can see the effect of not having an Assault Vest here. It's not hanging on. It's hanging on by just a thread. But Archaladon on Longyu's side cannot hang on from that 2+ Dragon Pulse. It's going to be going down, and Eloy is taking game 1.
The drawbridge is wheeled back in for Longyu, and in a battle that really went back and forth, it was Eloy that came out on top, and Terra Bug was the play of the day, really. The play of that game that really saved Eloy, because Body Press was by far Longyu's best option for hitting that Archaladon for good damage, and Terra Bug, of course, resisted. I wouldn't be surprised if the main reason for Eloy running Terra Bug on the Archaladon is precisely in that mirror match, Archaladon versus Archaladon. It's a really nice tech to have up your sleeve.
It's not a common, as you said, Charlie, defensive Terra type, but it's one that we see sort of sparingly. But every time we see it, we've seen it on Iron Hands, we've seen it on Excalibur in past regulation sets, and it always makes such a big difference in scenarios that you don't quite expect it to be in. But when it gets used, oh my lord, it does do so much work. And it does, as you said, during the game, it allows Eloy's Archaladon to play in the mirror much, much more effectively. And yeah, with that leftover recovery, I mean, the amount of turns it was on the field, I reckon that leftovers would have been able to save it from that final Electro Shot that came out from Longyu's Archaladon as well. So yeah, lots of really fine margins here. These players, of course, 5-0 already in round 6 of Dortmund here. Everything's to play for going into the sort of final few rounds of the day. Only 2 more remaining after this, and these are the margins that these trainers have to work within.
Yeah, and I think the Electro Shot outside the rain is a really good call as well, because there are quite a few Pokemon that aren't going to be able to protect. We see a lot of Choice Scarf, we see a lot of Choice Specs, and even Band, and the Assault Vest running around in Regulation Set H right now. So actually, if they can't protect, and you just know you're going to be eating up an Electro Shot, it's a really good play. You don't need to bring the Politoed. So it's a nice flexible option that Eloy has up their sleeve. But in terms of approaching this next game, Ben, what are you looking for from Longyu?
Well, I think Longyu did a really good job in the early game of just trying to knock out the support pieces for Eloy.
Yeah.
But I think what it was lacking was that pressure into the Archaladon in the end game. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that this game round. Archaladons facing each other down, but they're on the other side of the board this time, coming out in the other orientation. Rillaboom and the Basculegion coming out for Eloy and Longyu.
Yeah, these Archaladon just cannot escape each other no matter where they maneuver across the field. Rillaboom really threatening the Basculegion over on Longyu's side here. And the Basculegion is Terra Water, so very threatening indeed. You can't fake out the Basculegion, but you can just go for a Grassy Glide. You could switch in something from the back, then Eloy could use that to the advantage. You know, maybe it's the Kingambit, say, and then you could target that with a Body Press. It would be a big old call, but and potentially too bold for this early on in the game. But these are the decisions that might be going through Longyu's mind right now.
Fortune favors the brave.
Yeah.
Old, well, I'm not sure what the term is, Charlie, but, you know...
You could have been safe just sticking with Brave.
No, we'll go for the Brave here. And let's see which trainers have been brave in this turn, as it's a first turn terrestrialization from the Archaladon. I'm not sure which one that is, though, Charlie. It is, in fact, Longyu's, the Terra Grass Archaladon coming out here.
Terra Grass immediately for Longyu here. Interesting decision. Of course, the Rillaboom does have access power, not doing very much damage. So really nice call from Longyu there.
Double stamina boost, and we saw how much damage the stamina was doing in the previous game, and here's the Assault Vest doing its best work here, making sure that this Archaladon on Longyu's side of the field remains healthy, and a good terrestrialization there against the high horsepower. Now the Archaladon on Longyu's side of the field has not one, not two, but 3 defense boosts from its stamina, and it's going to be doing putting on a lot of pressure. Of course, we know that the Terra Bug on Eloy's side of the field is on his Archaladon, but it's almost forced at this point in the game. It almost has to avoid being knocked out in one, and that gives Longyu a lot of flexibility. It gives him a lot of space to take advantage of, and also to, as we saw in game 1, Pollen Puff the Archaladon on Longyu's side of the field back to full HP.
Yeah, Pull and Puff can pay massive dividends here, but the Archaladon on Longyu's side really taking a significant amount of damage here, so potentially something Longyu is considering. Time for Archaladon for Eloy's end to go for its favorite Terra Bug here, looking a little bit more like a centipede right now on the field, or indeed a Scolipede perhaps, going for that victory cry. Body Press now connecting into the Rillaboom, much safer targeting that slot just in case of the terrestrialization coming out from Eloy's side, which of course it does, and Wood Hammer giving a nice little another stamina boost to Longyu's Archaladon. A little bit of chip from the recoil that the grassy terrain will be recovering back. Dragon Ball's not going to be enough to pick up the knockout there. Another stamina boost to boot. And if this Amoonguss has gone for the Pollen Buff, which it has, all of that work by Eloy undone.
And you got to respect the play from Eloy. At some point, it doesn't matter how many stamina boosts the Archaladon has got. You're almost fishing for critical hits at that point. You need to make sure that you're targeting into it and giving yourself the opportunity to be able to knock it out. And if that doesn't work out, hey, that's fine. You know, you won game 1. Maybe you have to think about the end game, see if you can find a solution, or if not, then you're thinking about game number 3. But in this case, Longyu has just set up such a strong board position. They only have to click body press for a little while, maybe have to worry a little bit about the Basculegion potentially in the back. But if they body press and it doesn't go into a Pokemon that takes damage from it, like that ghost, unlike that ghost type Basculegion, well, that's okay because Archaladon's here for the long game.
I'm surprised to see this Rillaboom stick around on the field for so long, to be honest. It wasn't offering that much against the 2 that Longyu has out on the field, and now it's down. So now can't switch in something and get around a Spore, which Rillaboom would have been immune to, being a grass type. Electroshock being set up by Eloy's Archaladon, just hoping to fish for boosts that ultimately might be able to allow Eloy's Archaladon to take care of Longyu's own Electroshock going off on the next turn. But if you're Longyu, you can just Rage Powder that away, and wouldn't be very effective. Of course, wouldn't be very effective into Longyu's own Archaladon either. But here comes Incineroar joining the field. It's not like it's threatening either of the Pokemon on Longyu's side of the field with that much damage, because it doesn't have access to a damaging Fire-type move. It's Knockoff, Will-O-Wisp, Parting Shot, and Fake Out here.
Yeah, you know, fair enough. I mean, you've got to do something in this position. Archaladon has now locked into Electroshock. You've got to make that progress if you're Eloy. Find a way to do a little bit of damage. But I'm liking what I'm seeing here. The only threat, really, that Longyu has to be able to slow that Archaladon down on Eloy's side is going for the Spore. But the Incineroar has the opportunity to Will-O-Wisp, side Will-O-Wisp. We didn't see that come off because Body Press just gets the one-hit knockout.
Clean one-hit knockout there onto the Incineroar as Eloy going for these Electro shots. Just a tiny bit of chip damage. The important thing is it got the special attack boost on the previous turn. But there it is. That's Amoonguss deciding that this Archaladon has to get even more adorable and take a little snooze on the field. And just going to be Eloy's, as of yet, unrevealed Pokemon in the bag. So Longyu adapting massively here at a 4 Pokemon advantage. to Eloy's zone 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's just excellent play there, not taking any risks whatsoever. And of course, because you know that our Archaladon on Eloy's side of the field has gone for its Terra Bug, you know that the Incineroar cannot go for its Terra Fairy to resist a body press, and that's a completely safe Pokemon to body press into. If it goes for a fake out into the Archaladon, then okay, the Amoonguss puts the other Archaladon to sleep, and if it goes into the Amoonguss, well, the Incineroar gets knocked out and another Pokemon goes to back to its trainer. So yeah, Longyu playing objectively correctly, absolutely here in this position, and yeah, it's. I don't think Eloy's got what it takes to be able to get through this Archaladon now.
Yeah, the game has really run away in Longyu's favor, as now Longyu going for his own Electro Shot boosts. And I think in this game, the crucial thing, and it was important in the previous one, but crucial in this one, is that Pollen Puff coming out from the Amoonguss. Being able to heal up the Archaladon, or indeed anything of Longyu's choosing on his side. So you've really either got to be getting rid of that Archaladon before the Amoonguss can heal it back up, or you just target down the Amoonguss hard. But Eloy doesn't have the best resources to deal with grass-type Pokemon, but you do have Choice Specs Ice Beam on your Politoed.
Well, maybe that's the call. I mean, you speed up the Electro Shots for your opponent, but you also speed up your own Electro Shots. So maybe that's something that we can think about going into our likely, very likely, in fact, Game 3. As it stands, Eloy's got a few options to maybe draw things out a little bit. You've got to maybe get a double protect with the Basculegion, stop the Electro Shot going into it this turn. Then maybe, because you've got some special attack boost on your Archaladon, maybe you can get a critical hit, knock out the Amoonguss, but...
Or you could just forfeit the battle.
Yeah, no, that is, you know, that is the other option. That is the other option, yeah. I think that's probably wise at this point to do that, rather than giving your opponent any more information about how you want to approach the match. Maybe another turn just clicking protect and just thinking how to get around that Archaladon. You know, you set up so many boosts in the early game, and with the Rillaboom not even having U-turn, instead having high horsepower, once the Archaladon is a Terra Grass, it really does shut down the damage options, as you're saying, Charlie, that to deal with those grass-type Pokemon. And I think the difference here in Game 2 was that Longyu's Amoonguss was, you know, kind of came in almost for free, and Eloy didn't really have the damage on the board, where I think it took a bit too much damage coming in Game 1, and that allowed Eloy to sort of deal with the Amoonguss and then pick off the partners as well.
Right, exactly. And I think, you know, it works both ways, doesn't it? Because, yes, you're not giving any more information away to Longyu if you're Eloy forfeiting there, but also you're giving yourself a little bit less time to think and adjust heading into the next game. And we often see trainers trying to stall out the game for as long as possible because they're trying to come up with a game plan heading into the next one. But as it is, 1-1 apiece, I really am liking the look of this Politoed, to be honest with you, because it's so bulky. It's, along with Ice Beam, Muddy Water, Weather Ball as well. If you don't want to risk a Defiant boost on the King Gambit with an accuracy drop from Muddy Water, then Weather Ball is there. But also the Perish Song. It's awkward because with Politoed, you want the Ice Beam out on the field early, you want that online, but then you want Perish Song in the end game. So then you want to switch out the Politoed, bring it back in.
Oh, you have it in the early game. You have it in the early game.
You could do that as well.
You go Gothitelle and Politoed. You go for the Perish Song. Try to knock out the Archaladon if it's in the lead. There we go. And
no.
Maybe in the late game. Maybe in the late game. I'm going to hold out hope.
Right, sure, okay. I mean, do you want to finish what you were saying about then where the game goes from there?
Oh yeah, you try to get rid of the Archaladon as quickly as possible, then your Archaladon combined with your support pieces is able to knock out all of the rest of the Pokemon. But as it stands, we've got Basculegion, we've got Archaladon, we've got Incineroar this time in the lead instead of Rillaboom, and Archaladon, of course, mirroring each other down.
Yeah, well, it's going to be the Basculegion being threatened by the Dark-type moves on the Incineroar, but then Incineroar threatened by the Water-type moves on the Basculegion. I don't know how these Archaladon find themselves in facing each other every single game.
They've done so well.
They must just think they're looking in the mirror, what's going on? And then the other one terrestrializes and think, wait, no, I'm not Terra Bug. Bug? What's going on? Oh, I see. No, you're actually another Archaldon. And Eloy, once again, bringing the timing right down to the wire. But let's see. It's got to be the Amoonguss lurking in the back for Longyu. But for now, it's time to get Crystalline. Yes, once more, it's time for Longyu's Archaldon to go immediately for that Terra Grass.
I think it's a good Terra type, especially with the lack of fire type coverage that Incineroar has. The Will-O-Wisp is a little bit problematic, but there we go. Stamina boost getting set up straight away in this game, just like in game 2, and making sure that it's just that little bit safer from its opposing Archaludon's body press and other physical type moves on the Incineroar.
Yeah, now Longyu has to decide which Pokemon to bring in from the back. We're going to have the reveal of something. Do you bring in the Amoonguss right now? I mean, what can it achieve? Yeah, you have the Pollen Puffs online for later in the game. And this is the thing, it's a hard one to call. You don't want the Amoonguss to be too vulnerable, but also you want it to be able to go for those Pollen Puffs as soon as you need it. But it's going to be the King Gambit coming in instead. Body Press super effective into Incineroar, bring it down to about a third of its health. This King Gambit going to be taking a Dragon Pulse. It doesn't mind that one little bit. The King Gambit over on Longyu side of the field does indeed have access to the Swords Dance, but it's Will-O-Wisp going into the Archaldon, which is a really nice play. So body presses aren't going to be dealing as much damage. You can also Will-O-Wisp, of course, into the King Gambit.
Even at 6+ stages of defense boosted, it's kind of like having 2 stages when you're burnt. It's like ×4 but halved, and you end up with this kind of thing where the maximum threshold of that body press is only 2 stamina boosts overall. And I really like that adaptation from Eloy, just making sure that body press, which has caused so many problems for Eloy across this set, is just a little bit less viable. And that might take the pressure off of Archaludon from Eloy. It means that it doesn't necessarily have to go for its Terra option, and one of the other Pokemon can, like the Incineroar, could go for Terra Fairy in the face of this King Gambit, and would probably be able to take a body press in this situation as well. Maybe get a Will-O-Wisp onto the King Gambit and sort of secure a board position so that Eloy can set up his own electroshocks.
Yeah, we've got to bear in mind as well that, you know, that Eloy's Archaldon is not holding that assault vest. We cannot stress that enough. Body press no longer be doing very much damage at all inside Incineroar. It does indeed go for its Terra Fairy. You called it, Ben. Freeing up a Terra option on another Pokemon. Eloy recognizing, I need to get this Archaldon set up now, so it's ready to go in the end game with boosted special attack. Knockoff coming out into Longyu's own Archaldon. That's really nice. Getting rid of the assault vest, so it's going to be softened up even further for the special attacks coming out of this Archaldon. King Gambit saying, right, I've had enough of this messing around, everybody. It's the teacher in this situation saying, look, class, settle down. I'm going to settle this with big Catar Cleaves after this Swords Dance coming out here.
But yeah, I mean, and that's a really good move for the King Gambit to be going for, but it's not going to be able to get off an attack, at least into the Incineroar, before it's gonna be vulnerable to a Will-O-Wisp. And now it's the Terra Fairy, because of only the Dark type coverage on the King Gambit. It's going to be quite difficult for King Gambit to be able to knock out this Incineroar as well. So a really nice adjustment here, especially while the King Gambit is under threat of Electroshock. Now the special attack boost is gone up, but look how much damage that Sucker Punch did right there.
Oh God, I felt that Sucker Punch in the guts, Ben. That winded me almost with the follow-up body press. Eloy's not looking too pleased about that one. Electroshock is going to be fired off into the King Gambit. It's not the body press. It's not going to be enough for the knockout either. Thinking, maybe I should have just gone for the body press there. But perhaps, I don't know, maybe you're predicting the Amoonguss switch in, but it's got that dull boost to its attack there. So interesting to see no body press coming out from Eloy's own Archaldon here. Parting Shot able to weaken Longyu's Archaldon even further. It's been softened up defensively. Now it's had its attack stats reduced too. Rillaboom gonna be joining the field.
And with threatening the high horsepower, that high horsepower does have to come out while under threat of the Sucker Punch from the King Gambit there. That's really been nicely set up. Of course, last turn, the Electroshock had been locked into because the rain was on the field. So it wasn't able to do it that turn. But it could do this turn, or it could sort of start to think about it. Of course, the King Gambit can protect itself. It's not running the Assault Vest. That's on the Archaludon. So there's definitely some decisions to be made here about how you target down your opponent if you're Eloy. Do you call that the King Gambit goes for the protect, use the special attack boost that you've accumulated with Electroshock, go for the fake out, go for the Dragon Pulse, and try to target down that Archaludon that we know cannot protect itself, and then put How do you beat a King Gambit? Well, put two things in front of it that it has to Sucker Punch.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you have the fake out online right now, and we have two unrevealed Pokemon for both Eloy and Longyu in this situation. Got Basculegion, we know, lurking in the back. As Archaladon goes for the Protect that Longyu's own Archaladon is not able to go for. King Gambit also going for the Protect here. Really nice for Eloy to stall that out to try and get a body press off later on, but we saw how much damage that Sucker Punch did. Doubling up into the Archaladon here. Longyu not really fearing this Rillaboom at all in this situation. High horsepower certainly threatening down the King Gambit here, but Longyu nicely set up. Even though the Archaladon is in a slightly weakened state, the King Gambit, the same cannot be said for that.
Well, I'm just looking at the HP recovery from the grassy terrain and the leftovers. It really is adding up now. The stamina boost is activated twice on Eloy's Archaladon, and that means that the Sucker Punch maybe it's not enough to pick up the KO at this point, but there's also this like cheeky little play that you could do, maybe Grassy Glide yourself.
Yeah.
That avoids the Sucker Punch from the King Gambit on the Rillaboom and makes sure it doesn't get targeted, but then you're covering, giving the Archaladon an extra defense boost so that it can probably survive a Sucker Punch from the King Gambit as well. So you're kind of covering two bases, and with the King Gambit just having protected itself, it's much more likely to be attacking, or at least attacking, or maybe even switching this turn. But no, just a switch out from that Archaladon.
Eloy hoping to catch a Sucker Punch into this Basculegion, which of course wouldn't do anything. Sucker Punch only activates if your opponent's readying a damaging move. Look how much damage that Sucker Punch does into the Rillaboom. Follow-up body press, and that is just Rillaboom down and out immediately for Eloy. So really well targeted by Longyu there. Feels like Longyu is kind of getting things pinned down.
Yeah, this is Eloy playing a little bit defensively, and Eloy needs to play defensively. A Swords Dance King Gambit is definitely not something that you want to treat lightly, especially when it's boosted by the black glasses. But now the effect of Archaladon switching out here is that it doesn't have those stamina boosts anymore. It's susceptible to getting knocked out by a Sucker Punch. Basculegion, of course, carrying the Life Orb as well, is also susceptible to that. And of course, it's so difficult because when you're trying to target down that King Gambit to be able to knock it out, you've still got to respect the Archaladon that Longyu has access to. And there's still a Basculegion in the back. There's still an unrevealed Pokemon in the back for Longyu. He's positioned this so well and targeted so perfectly with that King Gambit.
Oh, Sucker Punch just easily enough for the clean one-hit knockout there. Critical hit, not mattering one bit. And that's going to be the Basculegion down. It might be a very powerful fish, but it's not necessarily one with the most longevity. And, you know, you're looking at what Eloy has left, and you're thinking, well, how do you deal with Longyu's Archaladon? It probably is that Amoonguss in the back for Longyu, but doesn't even need to bring it out here. Longyu deciding, look, I can step on the gas as well as get nicely set up with my Archaladon. It's been softened up right now, but that doesn't matter. The King Gambit is there, providing such threatening Sucker Punches. Just too much health being left on the field. And once again, this Incineroar from Eloy, which, by the way, is going to make this King Gambit even more threatening, make the teacher in this situation even more severe, thanks to the Intimidate, giving it a double boost to its attacks. This King Gambit will now be at +3 in its physical attack. It's just shutting things down with the Sucker Punch. At least you can buy yourself a turn with the fake out. You can go for a body press, but of course the King Gambit can just protect. So yeah, Longyu, really well played.
Well, the King Gambit can also switch in this situation as well. Just bring in the Basculegion. That covers a body press, and then you can knock out this Incineroar that can't protect itself, and you leave it with Archaladon versus the 4 Pokemon on Longyu's side of the field. And even with the leftovers, the grassy terrain isn't gonna stay on the field for too much longer, so you're kind of whittling down the recovery in the long term. But 4 Pokemon against 1 is a very challenging place to be.
Yeah, I mean, you sometimes see the 1 Pokemon soloing opposing teams of 4, depending on what you have in the bag, but the Archaladon just not set up as King Gambit wisely protects from the fake out. Here's the body press from Longyu's Archaladon. Is able to take it, get a stamina boost that's definitely too little too late. Dragon Pulse connecting down. Now, let's bear in mind, no longer has the Assault Vest, but still not enough to secure the knockout here. So it's just slowly heading towards, unfortunately, what seems like an inexorable loss for Eloy here.
but it would have been enough if the Archaladon hadn't switched out. It did get one special attack boost from the Electro shot. So, you know, there's definitely a world where the Rillaboom made the prediction, went for either a Grassy Glide or switched itself out, expecting the Sucker Punch. The Dragon Pulse from Archaladon on Eloy's side of the field, knocked out Archaladon on Longyu's, and then there's a whole different game to be played from that position. But that's not the world that we're living in right now.
Yeah, right.
Longyu's made all of the right decisions, targeted absolutely perfectly. You cannot take that away from him right now. Eloy going for the protect, just trying to find a win condition in this situation. Will-O-Wisp not connecting on the King Gambit. That was one of the ways that this could have been maybe a little bit better for Eloy, but as it stands, Kowtow Cleave with the critical hit, knocking out that Terra Fairy Incineroar.
Yeah, that's just salt in the wound, isn't it? I mean, even if you burn that King Gambit, can you come back in? I mean, it gives you a little bit more survivability. But then, once again, how do you deal with Longyu's Archaladon? You know, it's sort of kicking the can further down the road. But very well played indeed as we see the final couple of turns play out. I mean, we're probably not even going to see what that final Pokemon is in the back for Longyu. We've got to assume it's the Amoonguss there. But huge congratulations to both players. 5-0. Currently, now Longyu goes 6-0. Eloy 5-1. Still an incredible achievement. Well done to Longyu.
6-0 at the Dortmund Regional Championships, the first regionals of our season in Europe, and Longyu pretty much securing their position into Day 2 Swiss, into that continuation, and setting themselves up really, really well to get into that asymmetrical top cup.
Yeah.